to really go deep into my mind, and this is something I really advise. It's really helped me. Hello, I'm Hayden Bluefield. Welcome to Vlog My Mind. This week, I want to go through a lot of what I've been journaling about at the moment. Is as my own life is sort of metamorphosizing from this garden company owner to content creator, going on more into podcasting and investing, trading, all these sorts of things, is changing my mindset around and identifying myself as that person rather than the person I've been used to. And so I've had a lot of fears, anxieties, discomforts around the idea of moving on, and a lot of thoughts and battles with how to move on from the garden company. So hopefully this will be a great video for anyone that is in that similar situation, or is, you can probably apply it to anything in terms of moving on, whether it's a relationship, your job, career, business, hobby, all these different things. It's just, if you are in a position where there's something you feel like you need to exit from and move on to something else, hopefully this will be really helpful for you. So let's get stuck in. What it is, I've tried to really go deep into my mind of what is the barriers, what are the issues that I'm having with the idea of letting go of the garden company. And so I've got 18 points, there'll probably be more in the future, but I just wanted to run through what the 18 points are. And the way I've structured it is, I've gone through four, and this is something I really advise, it's really helped me. I've just listed out all of those problems that I could think, literally sat there and talked to other people about it. What would my problems be? What have I said in the past? Or what have I just span out a conversation when we talk about how things are going that you think would be an issue for me in terms of moving on? And then as I've got that list, I've then responded to myself with the idea that if I was to have a friend come and sit down and be like, look, Hayden, I want to move on from this, here's my challenges. And I say, right, let's list them all out. And then I respond to them sort of openly, unbiasedly, and optimistically. And so let's just go through the list. They're not in any particular order, these are just literally as I blurted them out, wrote them down as quick as I could. Fear of not making money, as my source of income is through the company. So yeah, the scare is that if I completely move on, I want to go into a world of content creation and trading and investing, things that are all extremely volatile, especially with day trading, as I've experienced in my own life, is so volatile, and the statistics for people that actually make money in it is so low. And my company is already profitable, it's already operational, and it's running, and it can survive, and it will survive. I could literally have a comfortable life sticking to what I do, just working in it part-time, just as me, as I've got no staff now, so just me working part-time. I could have a comfortable lifestyle and live in a normal home and have a vehicle I drive around and have a lot of free time. So that creates a barrier, and the idea of letting go of all of that is I take away that main source of income. But my response, you'll always find a way, and so what if you don't make any money? You have little expense and there's always opportunity to make money. Money is omnipresent, and where there is no money, there is the exchange of value. So my point here being, I've always been able to find a way, and since I was 9, I've made my own money, and I didn't have a job at 9, I didn't have a business at 9, I just was selling stress balls at school, in primary school. But there's also that exchange of value, the idea, and this is something that really showed me. If anyone's seen Grant Cardone's Undercover Billionaire, first night he gets dropped into a town with nothing, no resources, well, $100, a phone and a truck, nowhere to sleep for the night, and he doesn't spend any money, he just manages to build connections instantly and talk his way into having an RV to stay in for a few nights, which turns into even more. So there's that exchange of value. You help me, I help you. I have this skill, I have these assets, and we can just exchange between us. And so that's the concept of I'm moving on with my life into different things, and there'll always be that way to merge, collaborate, or whatever it is with people. Next point. This is more of an ego issue. Fear of seeing my net worth go down. I may have to use cash I have elsewhere, meaning I see the amount of money I control go down, which is a ridiculous point when you think about it. I just seen the amount of money I control sort of go up steadily over time, and the idea that it could dip temporarily doesn't sit right with me. And in my mind, it's just got to grow, it's got to be linear, and the idea that it can fluctuate and follow this zigzag pattern, I'm not really happy with, and it's just something I need to get my mind over. But my response, money comes and money goes. Life is a ride of peaks and troughs. Even in this month of still having the garden company, you've seen your money drop by more than 25 grand. That is a vanity issue, which is very true. And however old you are watching this, for me, I'm 25, so I'm in, I suppose, a fortunate position where I could lose everything. Many people that are successful in life started at 30, started at 45, started at 50. So in your 20s, you have got the ability, I live at home with my mum I've got the ability to take a lot more risks. I haven't got the concern of a mortgage to pay. I haven't got the concern of children to feed. So I've got a lot of flexibility there. So the idea that I'm worried about this fluctuation is unnecessary, and it's just like this toxic feeling in my mind I need to eradicate. Or maybe you disagree. The unknown, which every human being I think has, well, just by our nature, we like to be in familiar settings. The unknown, the stupid what ifs of pessimism. What if it doesn't work out? What if you're shit? My response, you're an optimist, so clearly with mindfulness practice, you will eradicate these thoughts, which I think is very true. I don't think I have much doubt of, I think it's a persistence thing, it's a consistency thing, and I just believe that I started business with absolutely nothing, no training, no knowledge of business, I didn't know even about public liability insurance, didn't know it was a thing. So there's always a way to find a way. The fear that I will not stay productive and end up losing motivation, which I find funny that I've actually written that down. My response, you are too curious and confident. Where have you ever in the history of living been unproductive and unmotivated to do anything? Which is very true. Everything I do, everything I've got into, I've just been fully engrossed, obsessed with almost, and been completely curious and confident with it in the sense that I will just spend all my time doing it. I did it with business, I worked constantly. I did it with skateboarding, I'd skate every day for hours on end, and even after skating for days, I'd come home, go in my garage and skate for more until the evening. So it's something, I think it's just the idea of a lot of this work involves just being at home, and then with this free time, the opportunity to socialise is just finding that balance between going out, socialising, and getting the work done, and just finding that balance. But I think it's the kind of thing that'll deal with the problem when it comes. The fear I won't actually enjoy it. Could chasing my dreams actually not be that great? Which is a good point, and I think that's probably one of the most significant fears, is just the idea, and this is probably what a lot of people have with their jobs, like the idea of letting go and moving on to that dream career they've always had, is like, oh, but what if this, I know this job, I know how it works, I know what I get paid, I know what my struggles are, I know what my stresses are, I know how I can manage it. Yes, I'm miserable, but I know what I'm doing. And the idea of that job offer that could be your dream job is like, oh, but it's the unknown. I've always dreamt of it and always wanted it, and when it was out of reach, it's something to look and strive for. But once it becomes attainable, suddenly it's real and it's unknown. My response, you'll only ever know when you try, but let's be realistic. Your hypothesis has come from your own life experience and created a career based on the activities you have most enjoyed, engage in the values you hold intrinsically, which is very true. So the whole point of the career and the moves I want to make is all based on what I've been doing in my free time, what I do for free, what I'd do if I wasn't being paid, and just hopefully can make a living out of it. It's all kind of in this limbo process of before I find the next business I want to run. The fear I get stuck and end up facing the runner's wall, so greatly portrayed in Run, Fat Boy, Run. So if you haven't seen that film, it's Simon Pegg's running a marathon and he just hits, there's literally this wall in front of him and he's got to break through. My response, as a person, you're incredibly driven and focused on achieving your goals. A wall is another obstacle for you to climb. Plus, you love skating. So when faced with a wall, do a wall ride. If anyone skates, you'll get that. Which is very true. Again, like I've never really, I don't know. I don't think I've ever really struggled with the idea of the concept of hitting this metaphorical wall and being stopped. Next one, it would mean walking away from the company I set my heart and soul on for 4 years. 21-year-old me would be screaming at me now thinking, what the fuck are you doing? Learn to let go. This is probably one of the most significant points, this is the company that's my name, my family's name, is what everyone knows me as. And by terminating that, it's this loss of identity and this loss of like who Hayden is, and suddenly it's like, oh, well, who is Hayden? Oh, we're not really sure, he makes videos and stuff. It shouldn't really matter what other people are considering or thinking, but it is for me just the idea, I'm looking down at my van. This is what I've built and worked so hard on for the last 4 years, obsessed over, and like having days as ridiculous as like starting at 5:30 in the morning, finishing at 20 to 12 at night. I'm just constantly working in meetings, trying to learn and grow. I mean, a lot of that was self-growth, but in building this business, so the idea of walking away from that, when I had such visions for it, getting to 100 people, having 1,000 people, having tens of thousands of people work for me, and building this great company of people that love their work, love their job, want to see this company grow, embedded with the vision and the mission. So it's quite heartbreaking, I suppose. And like I get messages now from people where it's just, they find out about it, it's all sort of wound right down, and it's to them it's like shock and just like, oh, you had all these contracts, all these clients coming in, these vans, you had a yard, everything was all sort of setting its foundation and going really well. And it's like, yeah, well, this is what I'll do later videos on, just the struggle of staffing and recruiting, retaining staff. That was the biggest struggle, the biggest challenge that I never overcome. And my response, some of the biggest steps in life can be achieved by knowing when to quit. To begin the next step, quitting while quitting happens, the very act of quitting means something is beginning. And how many successful people actually became successful from their first venture? I remember I had a client that they said about they run a landscaping company back in the day, and then they moved on to the financial sector and they work for a charity managing a charity fund, and obviously make an absolute fortune. They had a £2.5 million mansion, so doing very well. And I remember hearing that and just thinking, is this where I want to be? Is this where I want to make my success, or would I want to make it in a different industry? Sounds quite an interesting thought. Imposter syndrome. I actually have that with the idea of Hayden is not a content creator. Hayden runs a gardening company. It feels an almost impossible leap to create the new self. But I like my response here. Hayden is whoever and whatever you want him to be. Thanks, Hayden. You just need to go out and be him. As long as you are living true to your values and creating great experiences and uplifting people with you, then you're doing great. And this is true to anyone, like Hayden, Jim, Bob, Susan, Sally, Margaret, Maria, everyone. Like you watching this right now, you. It's the whole concept of you are whoever you want to be and whatever you want to be. And if you're creating great experiences, making great connections and uplifting people along the way, what more could you want? What more could you do for people? Except do it for more people. But that's the exact case that we have to work on, and I suppose not put so much pressure on the idea of if you've always known yourself to be one thing, it's never too late to adapt, change. What was it, like Colonel Sanders, the guy that created KFC, was like in his 60s when he started, so never too late. I see that as happiness, but what if it isn't? But that's just another what if. Yeah, so the concept being, I've found a lot of misery and I guess anxiety in being stuck with the garden business, which I should consider myself of how lucky I am as well, and I try and find gratitude in it. But the idea that I've looked at happiness being this freedom of time and the ability to spend my time doing the things that I love and have a passion for. So creating content, building connections, documenting those conversations and turn it into more content. This is what I've always considered to be intrinsic happiness for me. And so the big question is, what happens if it's not? What happens if I get stuck into it and then say I don't like it? And my response, when are you ever not happy? Even when gardening, despite your dislike for it, you still walk around with a pleasant demeanour, with a smile upon your face, embracing the fresh air and the opportunity to engulf yourself in podcast after podcast. Very true. And so even in something I'm doing I don't like, it's not taking all my time up and I can find enjoyment within it. So it's the thing that I've done and I did enjoy, and then I suppose it's the same thing in the future. It's like, yeah, this is what you want to do now. You might enjoy it for 5 years, you might enjoy it for 10 years, you might enjoy it for 50 years, you might enjoy it for 5 minutes, but move on with it as long as you're doing something, I guess, is the idea of just jump into the dream you have. Because I feel I need to solidify the strategy before I fully commit. I have a podcast, at least a shit one, have a YouTube channel with months of uploads, have partners to work with and connections in place. And I don't think this is a bad thing. So like at the moment, everything's all starting, it's all changing. Like trading was going really well, or was building gradually on sort of linear growth, and then went exponential and then dropped exponentially. So the idea of getting that data behind you, making sure it works, same with podcasting, because I haven't got a podcast at the moment, like the benevolent business is sort of on hold, which I want to get up and going again. So I'm creating these videos, but I haven't, like as I just said at the start of this video, I haven't got the traction going, I haven't got the rhythm, I'm making mistakes. I'm always going to make mistakes, but just get to a point where you're regularly uploading, creating content, you've got that rhythm where you've got a routine. And so I don't think that's a bad idea, but it's kind of like always having a plan B, and you're sort of treating your dream as a plan B in a gradual measure, which I think it depends what kind of person you are. Given I'm the kind of person that throws myself into anything and will just take risks regardless, or calculated risks, but There was something my therapist said about it and I really liked it, but I'll have to remember it for another day. Yeah, I've always thrown myself into things. So my response: throw all your eggs in one basket and watch the basket like a hawk. This has always been your way of living. The process of closing down the company will take time, and in that time you can work on your strategy, which is all very true. Like, I can't just say, right, I'm going to do it, and tomorrow won't be gardening. It's just a case of it all takes time and it's gradual to shut it all down and move on. I've got a lot of stuff to get rid of or sell, and then an office and a yard to like move on from. So it's all a very slow process anyway. So you might as well make it happen. I found it. Side note. So I found the quote from a therapist: risk equals play equals risk. Used with confidence, mindfulness, and respect, but not recklessness. I really liked that, and I thought it does sum me up quite well. So hopefully it's given you some sort of insight and thoughts. And let's jump into the next point. Because I'll struggle to get a routine in place to record at home while others at home because I record in the lounge, I also have shyness with this. So yeah, the concept, I live with my mum and sister, so I'm having to record in a lounge or in my mum's room right now. I have a tiny shoebox room, so there's no space. And so I'm always battling around other people's routines, and like I've had times where I'm recording, making a video, and then all of a sudden the front door opens and it's like, oh, hello. Partway through recording the video, now I've got to like find the room again, get back to where I was, or just start again. So there is that barrier, and the idea that if I was living on my own, I'd have all the time to know I could be undistracted and crack on and get it done. So that, and as well, I found for anyone that has a business, you might be able to relate, is that when you run a business, it's very different when you have a job in terms of people's expectations or understanding of work. And so if you're around people in your family that are employed, they know that they go to work, clock in, they come home, they've clocked out already, so it doesn't matter. And whereas being a business owner, a lot of your work you'll have to do at home anyway. You'll have to jump on emails, get invoices done, all that kind of thing. You're always working at home, and it'll be like, oh, can you come and do this? Oh, I can't, I've got to get this work done. Oh no, you can do that later. And it almost can become an argument itself of like, well, why can't you come and just get this done? Or why can't you help me right now? And it's like, because I'm getting this work done. I think a lot of people found this during lockdown with working from home, is that other people in the family, especially if they didn't work, might find, oh, can you come and help me with this, or just walk through into your working space and start being distracting or involving themselves completely inappropriately. And it's like, no, this is work. But it's not, because the home is the place of relax where work doesn't happen. But we're all different, and just because you don't work at home doesn't mean that I don't. And if I need, like, I couldn't come into your workplace and just say, oh, right, can you come and make me a cup of tea, or can you come and help me with this? Oh, well, I'm just going to go pop to the shop, can you come with me? No, I'm at work. The same applies to us working from home, which is a bit of a battle to have. I don't know if you've had it, what your thoughts are. Do you agree? Do you disagree? But my response: in a working environment, you're incredibly organised. You will make that routine in no time and regularly be tested and measuring its efficiency. Confidence comes with practice. Eventually, you'll become more comfortable and no doubt even be able to record in real life comfortably. So the idea that this is all part of the learning phase, it's all part of building your confidence. And it's the same like when I went to quote a job. The first year I was out quoting jobs was a bit nervous, and I felt like great imposter syndrome, the idea that I'm there to quote. And I would get that response from people of like, oh, you're just a kid, we can knock you down, or you're not a proper business. But then as I got more and more comfortable, I controlled that situation a lot better. I could guide the conversation, and I knew the right questions to ask and knew how to handle it in a way to get the result I wanted. And I built that confidence, and I became much more stronger and better equipped, and my toolbox grew, and I was much greater in that situation. And that will be the same thing. Like, this is all new, it's all the beginning, and with time, commitment, dedication, consistency, it all improves to the point where I can just walk down the street filming myself. You never know, we might have a later episode where I'm just literally walking through the middle of my town talking, and then suddenly start bringing on strangers. When I'm asking questions to myself, to you, I just ask a stranger. Maybe I'll get that confident. We never know. Next, a fear of putting myself online, fully exposed and vulnerable, which is very true, and I've already done it, and I'm doing it right now. But I suppose we all have that, and it becomes very real, because I think it's about like people that with huge channels and huge networks. If you are like an influencer or TikTok famous, I don't know. But if you are someone where you have got hundreds of thousands or more viewers, subscribers, comments on your content, then there's a lot of responsibility there. So like for me making these videos, by me being slow, let's be real, like there's less than 10 people watching this. So there's no pressure really. If I don't do it, I don't do it. Whereas if you've got 100,000 people, 200,000, a million people engaging with your content, you have to make sure you show up. You have to make sure you're on time. If you're late, not acceptable. Which is quite, it's the same as having a job though. Like if you're doing something for free, or if you have a job, you suddenly got all these pressures added on. But my response, take all the feedback you can, see where you can improve. Essentially, you're opening the doors to enable accelerated improvements. Where else could you get instantaneous feedback, criticism, and praise? Stepping out of your comfort zone is where the growth happens. So it's exactly the point. By putting yourself online, yes, you get a lot of keyboard warriors and such and haters and whatever. Like there's a bit of a funny toxic environment online sometimes, a lot of the time. But it's the opportunity to get so much feedback so quickly. Like we're very lucky in the sense that we can put our ideas and thoughts online and get instantaneous feedback and get that response. It can be a detriment, but if you're able to just switch off from it and just be completely analytical with it, not get your emotions attached, you could have 100 people telling you you're shit. But if you're able to overlook that and just see your shit and here's why, there could be opportunities to make improvements there, so that next time they go, okay, maybe you're not shit. But it is, you've got to be strong-skinned to be able to face that, which hopefully I am. We'll find out. I have an excuse of why I can't. Oh, I love this one. I have an excuse of why I can't at the moment, but I throw myself into my dreams. There is no excuse. The idea, like if I don't do this video, if I don't upload, if I'm late, day late, week late, whatever, if I'm slacking, it's, oh, I'm only just starting, I'm still getting in the rhythm of things, so be forgiving. Or, oh, I'm still working anyway, so I've got to go get this job done, so I can't actually spend the time creating content. Whereas if I let go of the garden company, there is no excuse. There is nothing there for me to say, oh yeah, well, it's not quite what I'm doing yet. If I throw myself into it and I start making those mistakes, but again, it's how your mind finds those mistakes. Do you evaluate and improve, or do you just bury yourself in that mistake and shame yourself on it, which is never a strong way to move forward. But there is this fear, I suppose, that I have of, all the while I've still got the garden company, I can be like, oh yeah, well, it doesn't matter because I'm not doing it full time yet. And my response is confidence and commitment. Build a routine and stick to it, adjusting and making improvements where you can. You start the company with no excuse, which is very true. I just fell into starting the company, but I started the company, built the company, run the company, all with no excuses, just cracking on day by day, learning, always aware that I had a lot to learn and had a great amount of ignorance. I don't feel I quite have the requisite tech, film and editing skills to run smoothly and efficiently. But again, I'm just going to have the response, practice. You didn't know shit about business when you started. It's all very true. But this leads very well on to the next point. I feel I'm too old to start over, and I've put in capitals here, bullshit. Yeah, so like I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and they're like, oh, you're 25, you've got the world in front of you, you're so young, you can literally do anything, you can flip, you can change, you can start all over, you're 25, you're so young. Whereas in my head, I'm not. Well, I'm 25, but it's like I should already be settled. I should already have momentum, the rhythm going for what I'm doing, and know, despite the fact I'm 25. Like, a couple of my response here, Grant Cardone was a drug addict at 25. A Japanese man started skating at 90. You're never too old. Colonel Saunders, KFC, was 60. So you're never too old. I just feel, yeah, in my own mind, there's this pressure of at 25 I should be established and that I can't start as a beginner again, although I could start another company. But the idea of starting up as, I don't know, letting go of the garden company and moving on as a content creator with no foundation, with zero. So with 1 view, 2 views, like if I had 10,000 views, then maybe it's more acceptable. If it was making money, maybe it's more acceptable. But these again are just all thoughts in my mind I need to let go of in order to move forward comfortably and confidently. I feel a loyalty to clients. My response, they will be understanding. Are you really loyal? How many did you drop in an instant because they were not profitable enough? And it's all very true. So I've kept the gardens that I enjoy the most. I've kept the ones that are most profitable. I've kept the ones that are pleasant, that I can have a cup of tea with and a chit chat. Despite the fact I seem to like be a robot working and never want to talk to people, but it's a good point though. Is there that loyalty there? Is there not? I suppose I wouldn't want to let people down. I wouldn't want them, like in some situations I had to, or I became more comfortable, or I'd sort of done it weeks before I'd actually said it to them. I'd already we'd miss visits or whatever it was, or just mentally I'd sort of let go of them as a customer. And the ones I have left that are still being looked after is, there is this sense of like, do I want to let more people down, or are they going to be, it's just a few customers that seem so reliable on the service that they would be a bit stuck without us, so I wouldn't want to put them in that trap. But again, it's something you could do gradual. So I've got a list I'm doing at the moment, say it's 25 clients, why not reduce it to 20, why not reduce it to 15? At least then it's a gradual process, which comes onto a lot of my thoughts here. It's just an idea to move forward with. The easy route is to continue on the path of limbo. So it's just human nature. We'll always follow the path of least resistance. We'll follow the easy route. Not to be said for entrepreneurs and business owners though, because it's a freaking nightmare at times. But to me, staying in this limbo is kind of the easiest option, because it's just doing what I'm doing and it works, it functions. So what's my response? When have you ever enjoyed the easy path? Take the risks, work hard on your passions, and you'll live knowing you are following your dreams. Very true point. Putting my trust in someone to work with and they quit. You've had that in business constantly, but why should that stop you? You don't necessarily need a partner, and if you do, you can always hire someone or focus on running solo. The platform builds leverage your audience. There's all like some good points here of, I've hired staff and seen them go. I've built connections with people and had points where I'm like, can I start to trust them? Can I start to put faith in them? Can I start to plan around them being here for the long run? And then a month later they quit. So, and even like with the podcast, it's with Dave and me running it together, it then like broke down, and it's just life gets busy, and we just found you have the momentum, it's all good while you're in the momentum, you're recording every week, you're putting the episodes together, but then as soon as you're like, right, season 1's done, let's take a break, suddenly that break perpetuates eternally, and it's just getting that rhythm back. And I remember the last catch up we had about planning for season 2, it was probably a year ago. No, it wasn't. It was 6 months ago. But 6 months ago, we have the plan of like, let's get back on track, let's get the rhythm going. And it was one of Dave's points of like, it's so hard to think of the idea of getting back to it and thinking, have I even got the time? But then, when you're in the rhythm, when you've got it going, it's fine. You've got your system in place, and it's habit, but it's getting that rhythm. And so I suppose even that has my own anxiousness around, I had a podcast running with someone, and if I can't get hold of them, like, will that happen again? Should I just run it solo? But I haven't got the skills. It'd be a lot better to work with someone, and it's nice to work with someone. I could hire someone, but then I'm paying £400 or £500 a month for someone to produce a podcast, and it's putting all these barriers in place. And luckily that was my last point, but it's a lot of thoughts. Hopefully it's been helpful for you. Hopefully I would definitely recommend this, the idea of sitting down, really writing out all your points and then responding to them. With a fresh view, in the same way that you would advise someone. Because how many times have you had it where you're stuck in a rut and you just think, if someone came to me with this rut, I'd be able to bounce right up and motivate them, inspire them, and get them back on track. And yet with myself, I can't do it. So this is me really sitting down, analysing my thoughts, thinking about my thinking, and seeing, how do I jump onto the next thing? How do I let go? How do I move on? What is the right thing? What is the wrong thing? And let's be real, there's no right, there's no wrong. It's just, I'll do what I'll do and find out. Hopefully it's exciting. It's exciting, daunting, scary, terrifying, nerving, encouraging, motivating for me. It could make me, it could break me, it could do a lot. We'll find out. Till next time. Bye.